Thank you for joining us for the March edition of Spotlight on Bennington. I'm John Shannahan, the Executive Director of the Better Bennington Corporation, and this month we're bringing you two shows. They're both being filmed from the Legislative Breakfast, which is being taped at Whitman's Feed Store in Bennington, or North Bennington. The Legislative Breakfast is a program that the Chamber of Commerce brings to Bennington, where about 3 or 4 times a year during the legislative session, our local reps, legislators, and senators join us for a question and answer session. This month, the meeting is also featuring Governor Peter Shumlin, so we've actually broken the show into 2 segments. The first segment will show our legislators and reps answering questions to the audience, and the second segment will show specifically Governor Shumlin speaking in front of the crowd. Please look for 2 episodes this month, and again, we apologize because some of the audio might be hard to hear because a lot of the audience did not use the microphones, but Alicia Romack is going to put this together so that you can hear it the best as possible. And don't forget, you can also check out certain segments at YouTube and just type in betterbennington.com and you'll be able to pull up the recent shows. We're right now upstairs at Whitman's Feed Store in North Bennington. And I'm here with Art Whitman, who is the chair of the Economic Development Committee. Tell us a little bit about why we're here.
Well, the Chamber has had for the last several years a breakfast, what we call a legislative breakfast. It's held the first Monday so that the people from Montpelier can be here. And this year we used to have it once a month, and we felt that we weren't getting enough time with the legislators, so we've actually had it every other week now, and so this is our 3rd one that we've had, but almost everybody, all of the legislators, both from the House and the Senate, usually make it.
Our last meeting, which is was at these meetings are normally at Kevin's restaurant, Kevin's Sports Pub and Restaurant in North Bennington. Stay tuned for the show. We're going to get started in a little while here. As you can tell, we're just getting the room set up, and people are starting to arrive. And we'll come back and introduce you to JoAnne Ehrenhouse, the Director of the Chamber of Commerce. As promised, I said I would introduce JoAnne Ehrenhouse, the Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and here she is. JoAnne?
The legislative breakfast that we have will be March 7th. We always have them on Mondays, and we always generally have them at Kevin's Restaurant in North Bennington. Today was the exception because with the governor coming, we anticipated a huge crowd. So Kevin and Lindy were kind enough to make everything and then drag it over here to Art Whitman's Feed Store on the 2nd floor.
Yeah, and we're expecting a good-sized crowd here, and they're starting to come in right now. JoAnne, before we get started, she wants us to keep it low because it's coming in really loud today. We wanted to bring up a very special fundraiser we have going on in town this month, and that is the Kathy Carrier New Lung Fund, I believe it's called, and it'll update you on all the fundraisers. I know there's one.
There's one at JC's. There's going to be another one by the firehouse because they're doing a pancake breakfast, and that's going to be, I think, next Sunday.
And then there's
the 27th of February is the pancake breakfast.
Okay, so please join us for that.
March 6th, there's going to be a fundraiser at JC's.
And JC's, and then Pepper Mills has one?
Well, we're having, I didn't really get the latest update on that, but yes, Pepper Mills is going to have one later in the month of March.
And I heard Nova May Cafe is doing one.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so they're going to, so keep checking back on Facebook. And on the Better Bennington website, betterbennington.com, we'll also post that, plus a link to the Facebook site for Kathy Carrier.
Right. And I'm sure it'll be on WBTN and in the paper and everything
else. And Cat TV. And it is. There's some PSAs on WBTN right now.
Yeah, so stay alert and come to at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now, back to the meeting. We have the governor here today.
Yes, we're expecting him to come by and give us a little special presentation. And, of course, the most important is he'll take questions, which we do every legislative breakfast.
Normally it's not the governor, but it is the legislators, our representatives, our senators.
That's right. They always come to Kevin's, and what we like to do, and they enjoy it, they'll all sit at different tables at Kevin's, and so that way our legislators are intermingled with our community, and they, can talk at the table and really get close to everybody.
Be a member of the Chamber?
No, the Chamber of Commerce sponsors it through Art Whitman, who's my legislative chair. However, anyone in the community is welcome to come to the breakfast. For example, we have a businessman from Manchester today who's come down because he went to a meeting up in Montpelier, and I said, oh, you should come to our breakfast Monday, so here he is. Just give you the first names. We have Isaac and Ryan. And these are 2 of the representatives from the Mount Anthony Union High School Social Studies class. So guys, just give me a quick overview of who your teacher is And are there any special issues at the high school?
We're here with Miss Wells and her social studies classes, and we have been here just to ask Governor questions and talk about issues that we have in high school.
Can you think of one in particular you have lined up for him?
Not at this moment. No.
Okay, you got them all written down?
Classes or programs in jeopardy due to budget restrictions or anything that you know of?
Not that I know, but I know that like last year, that a lot of teachers retired and they didn't replace all the teachers, so there's been some cuts, I understood.
And Isaac, what's your full name?
Isaac Lewis.
Isaac Lewis.
Ryan Pembroke.
Right, and do you have any questions lined up for him yet this morning?
No, I don't.
Nothing yet?
No.
What do you have, all your questions written down?
No.
You're just going to wing it, depending on what you hear.
This is so he knows that in about maybe 15 years he's got some competition for the seat as governor.
Oh, he knows it. I know. Let's see your names, right? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Good for you guys.
That's great.
So in a few minutes, we're going to get started here. So, JoAnne, anything else you'd like to share about the breakfast?
Well, I just want to, two things. Again, reiterate, you do not have to be a chamber member. We just sponsor it. The cost is $4, and it's a delicious breakfast. As we know, Kevin only for us makes breakfast, and his wonderful egg sandwiches, and a whole array of buffet things to have. And just, you know, come on down. We'll post the dates. Look in my column. So forth, and the 7th of March is the next one.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, JoAnne, very much. Now, before we're just going to turn this over. Today's show is going to run a little long because we're expecting the governor here in about an hour, and they're going to have a regular legislative breakfast where the floor will be open prior to that. So the show's going to run a little long, and Alicia's going to have to do a little editing. So we won't have a closing. What I'll do right now, though, is just tell you this show is running in March. And there is one event in March that I want you all to remember, and that's TJ Carmody's St. Patrick's Day Parade. This year it's on March 17, I believe. It's Sunday. It starts at 1 o'clock on Main Street. But again, you can go to betterbennington.com to double-check that date. Thank you for staying tuned and for joining us for Spotlight in Bennington, and we'll see you next month.
Good morning, North Bennington. It's great to be here. It's great to be back in the Deep South, and I'm sorry I had to travel down from a little north of the Deep South. Morning, guys. Good to see some youth here. I'm delighted to be home, back in the South. And I got to tell you, your legislative delegation is doing a great job, doing some heavy lifting for you. And I want to thank you for sending us such a great delegation. I know Senator Sears had to hop off to the doctor's appointment, but Bob Hartwell's doing a great job for you. Brian Campion's the fastest learner in legislative history. Mary's working her tail off. Bill Botzow's doing a great job chairing the Commerce Committee and getting my little jobs bill through so that we can get folks back to work. Tim Corcoran's bringing us rail on the western side from Bennington heading north. We're not going to start in the north and head south. We know where we were born, right, Tim? So we're going to make it happen. And I don't know where Alice is. Is she here this morning? Anyway, she's working hard, and Ann Mook's doing a great job for you. It also gives the honorable judge a break, so that's good. And thanks for such a great team. I just want to say a few words about what we're up to. I really want to answer your questions. I know I'm late, and sorry about that. But you know, we have an extraordinary opportunity to create jobs all over the state, not just what we're used to, governors who fight for jobs in Bennington County. And I will never forget where I come from. Whether it had been me or Brian Doobie, I don't think we've ever seen a time in Vermont history, at least in recent history, where it's more clear what the job is. We're united as a state on what the job is. And sometimes, you know, we bicker about whether it's property taxes or whether it's health care or whether it's, you know, making sure we have the best schools in the country. The fact of the matter is it's about jobs and job creation. And as I move around the state, which I do as much as I possibly can, there are two folks that I'm fighting for every day. The first is those that have lost their jobs, can't get back to work. And the second is the much larger group. It's all of the Vermonters who have jobs but find that their incomes are stagnant, that we're making the same amount of money that we were making a decade ago. That's the truth. But that our income, obviously our bills have doubled and tripled. So that's the challenge. So the first thing that we're trying to do is balance the budget. And that's not a very fun job. You know, I inherited a pretty tough situation, $174 million deficit. on top of the fact that for the last 3 years, Congress and the President had made the good judgment of sending back millions and millions of dollars to help us buy our way out of the worst recession in American history. And that money's now gone. So we need to balance this budget the old-fashioned way by matching our appetite to spend with the ability of Vermonters to feed the appetite. And I put a tough budget forward. It's not going to make many happy, but here's the promise. If we balance the budget this year, which we will, we won't be back next year looking for hundreds of millions of dollars for the 4th year in a row that we can't seem to find. So that's a bit of unhappy work, but we're going to get it done. And the good news is when we put Vermont on a sound and responsible fiscal spending path, we will serve those who need us the most, the best, by not making promise to them that can't be kept. On the bigger picture of jobs, how do we create jobs? There are 3 really key ingredients that we're working on to help get that done. The first is I have promised and committed to bringing together all the players to deliver broadband and cell service to every last mile of Vermont by 2013. That's the promise I've made. And I'm working every day with the legislature to make that happen. There are 3 things we need to do to make that happen. The first is an unusual marriage between our utilities, who got a ton of federal money to drive smart grids, meaning a smart meter to your home. They're using fiber that they're driving as far as they can with a wireless system to get the rest of the way, the last mile. We're marrying them with the telecom money that we got through the ERA funds to have a sort of unusual alliance between the two to make sure that we're integrating the same technologies so that Shaftesbury and Pownell can have the same speed as downtown Bennington. That's the goal. We're going to get it done. Second part of the marriage is the legislature needing to pass some permit reform that we've proposed, which will allow us to get towers up and technology on state lands and buildings so that we can drive that fiber at every last mile. So we're going to get that done. We cannot grow jobs in Vermont if we can't communicate with the outer world. We all know that we have a connectivity deficit in Vermont, that we are behind many areas of the third world. Bosnia has beaten us. Czech Republic has beaten us. China is beating us. Vietnam is beating us. We got to catch up. So we'll get that done. Second, health care. To those that are in business or trying to keep their families in health care, I don't need to tell you that your premiums are killing you, that we're all going to less and less insurance for more and more money. That's what we're doing. How's the math work? When Jim Douglas took over as governor 8 years ago, we were spending as a state, 625,000 of us, $2.5 billion on health care as a state of Vermont. Today, when I take over, we're spending over $5 billion a year. My banking insurance projects that, Commissioner, that if we keep with the current system, we'll be spending another $1.6 billion as a state in 2015. That is the biggest hidden tax on middle-class Vermonters and working Vermonters and small business that one can imagine. So we are proposing a single-payer system that we believe we can get to by 2014 that'll do 3 things. Treat health care as a right and not a privilege. Have a health care system first in the country where health care follows you and is not a requirement of the employer. And finally, and most importantly, a system that contains cost, so that instead of spending our dollars enriching insurance companies and pharmaceutical industries and medical equipment makers and pure solid waste, which is what we're doing right now, we're spending 8 cents on every dollar in health care in Vermont just chasing money around. I know what happens when my bills come. My daughters go to the doctor. I wait for 4 or 5 bills to pile up so I can figure out between the insurance company and the provider who's paying what. And after about 6 weeks, you go, okay, I get it now, and you send in your 67 bucks. You know, this is not a system. So we want to be the first state that passes a system. We need your help designing it. We think we can do it. Finally, education. From early child education to higher ed, the best education system in the country that trains workers for the 21st century jobs that are out there. And when I go out and visit businesses, they say, hey, you know, Governor, we got jobs. We just can't find people who are trained to do the jobs. Well, the job of government is to close the gap in Vermont between the job creators who have work to do and the education system, which is not turning out students that can do those jobs. That's our job. So we get those three things done, in addition to a few other little tasks, and I think we've got a really bright future. Thanks for having me.